Well, hello and welcome to Old People This Week. My name is Jeff, and that man there, the only man on screen who voted for Calvin Coolidge twice.
Exactly. And he won.
And he won twice. That's Mike, and we are your hosts every week. Old People This Week brings you all the gossip, the random news, and information that you need to know as you head into the weekend so you'll sound smart on the golf course or while you're playing pickleball or you're at the gym or, of course, at happy hour where I spend most of my time trying to keep Mike from falling on the floor.
You can never have too cold a martini or too nice a glass of red wine. Time well spent.
Time well spent. We have a big show this week. We're actually bringing on our first guest after 8 or 9 months of doing this worldwide podcast. But it's not anybody famous, so don't get your hopes up too high. Though, Mike, you did ask your buddy Kevin Costner to come on and promote that lame-o movie of his, but he wouldn't come on, would he?
No, he told me he'd come on a couple episodes, but he was busy right now promoting the wildly successful Western that he produced.
He's on to part 2 and nobody even knows it.
Plus his musical career is kicked back in.
What musical career?
He and his country Western band.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I got to get video of that. Though I saw Willie Nelson the other day. He was with on a rally for Kamala Harris.
Oh yeah.
And he looked. I mean,
oh.
Willie Nelson is old, man. He looked ancient.
Yeah.
We got a comment from a bit we did last week when I had told the story about going to CVS and there was a guy there who all he did was talk in a loud voice.
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on here? I mean, literally at the top of his lungs, so that everybody in the CVS was looking, what the hell is wrong with this guy? What's he doing? Anyway, somebody just wrote and they gave a 3-letter comment, LOL.
Well, yeah, they know the guy.
Well, I consulted with my Gen X kids, and that evidently means laugh out loud, so that's a good thing. Now, when this podcast is released, it will actually be Halloween night, and so we will be out, you and I, our next-door neighbor, Rick.
Yeah.
I think there's someone else coming, Fred. I think Fred's coming.
Yeah, a couple other guests, friends of theirs, and I think Larry and Tammy. Yeah.
Right. So that's 5 couples, 10 people, all over the age of 60, except for Valerie. Everybody's over the age of 65, actually. And we're all sitting there drinking behind a table in Rick's driveway, and we wonder why no parent will bring their kid there to get candy.
Pretty scary.
Yeah, we're all sitting there all liquored up and making fun of things, and the kids won't come by. And when I was a kid, it was much the same thing. We would go out, and if we didn't like somebody, we would soap their windows, get a bar of soap and rub it on their windows. Or we'd trick or treat, or, the whole normal thing. And as we got older, if you were brave, you would take your girlfriend and you would drive to this place called Tinker's Hollow, which was outside of Ashtabula, Ohio, in the country. And you'd go down into this hollow, and it'd be all foggy and everything, and where we would tell the girls to get them scared that there was a guy living down there that only had one arm and it had a hook on it, and that he would try to come out of the darkness and get us.
Oh boy, they must have really looked forward to that date.
That's what passed for entertainment in the early 70s in Ohio.
You should have been on the ranch for Halloween. We lived so far out in the country, there was no place to go. So Mom and Dad would send us out the back door, make us walk around the ranch house in our little uniforms or outfits or whatever we had, and then we'd knock on the front door and pretend to be trick-or-treating.
Oh my God, that's pathetic. That's pathetic. Oh, hi, Mo.
Yeah, hey.
Then we walk back around the house and come in.
Yeah, and act like we were exhausted.
Night's over, kids. I thought you took your horse and went to the next ranch or something.
No. That's too far a ride.
Yeah.
At night.
All right. My little rant this week is not going to be long because it's just a continuance of the constant rant I've had about these listeria, how these companies like Boar's Head are going around poisoning everybody with another. Well, they found another 12 million pounds of bad meat, and, and guess where it was selling at? Walmart, Target, Aldi, Trader Joe's, and Kroger. Literally,
Oh, wonderful.
yeah, that covers every place Americans go to buy meat, and it's all bad. It's all baloney, and so if you're buying baloney anywhere, just expect you're going to get sick or die.
And now McDonald's has an outbreak of E. coli from bad onions.
Yeah,
Good Lord.
yeah. I read about some teenage girl who went into like a coma after she ate a Big Mac.
Yeah, yeah. God, terrible.
That's terrible. Terrible, but it's funny to me. That's McDonald's. All right. Well, at any rate, now is a time when we're going to introduce our guest. His name is Paul. Paul, I've known for literally 40 years, since 1984 to 2024, and just about this month too. Back in '84, I met him at KABC in Los Angeles, where he was a wonderkind, a producer already at the age of like 23 or 24 or something like that.
Wow.
And I was older than him and an associate producer, which meant I answered to him. But we became friends, and we stayed friends all these years. And then he made the most remarkable career transformation that I'd ever heard of. He got rid of show business, and when he was, I don't even know how old he was, we'll ask him, but he decided to go to work for Southwest Airlines as a gate person.
Oh my God.
Not a flight attendant. I don't think he flew. We could ask him that too, but I know he was a flight attendant.
Yeah.
So let's go to Paul here. Hey, there he is. That looks
Paul.
good, Paul.
Is that fine? Okay.
Yeah, that looks better than it did the other day. You look clean shaven.
Clean shaven, $25 haircut. We're good.
Oh, $25, you cheapskate. Well, Mike gets his for free. So
I'm picking my lessons. I'm picking my lessons from Mike, not you.
Yeah. We'll retire. We'll retire in much better shape.
all right, you guys, enough. Let me reintroduce this thing as soon as Paul gets his big clammy hand out of the camera there. All right. That looks good, Paul.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, from Folly Beach, South Carolina, and all points west, that is Paul. We're not going to give his last name so that he's not harassed, doxxed on air. Paul, welcome. You know that's Mike.
Welcome, Paul. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
I was saying to our rabid audience that I've known you for 40 years this fall. When I started KABC, I was a lowly associate producer, and you were a wonderkind 20 whatever year old, 4 or 5 year old producer.
Yeah, 24 at the time.
Yeah, well, and you had already been infamous for one move you made, all timer, when that cameraman died on the set.
Oh,
And you ran down to save the morning show. You grabbed the tape from the previous day, and then they queued it up and aired it and covered it.
I honestly think that you're the only person other than me who remembers that story happening that way. But thank you, Jeff.
Well, the Mike, to give you a short history of live television, and this year would have been in the mid '80s. They had these gigantic pedestal cameras, and the camera people literally sat down on chairs behind them, and they could operate the whole thing from sitting there for all the time that the show was on, an hour or two, whatever was on. Yep. And they were all fat old white guys that every day they looked forward to the cooking segment of the show, because as soon as the show was over, they go up and they start eating food like maniacs. Anyways, but one day, as I remember it, Paul, one day you guys walked out there, the show was about to start, and one of the cameramen was slumped over dead.
Oh no.
Yeah, no, his name was Hank. I do remember his name. And it was, the show went on the air live at 9 a.m. and it was like 8:57. And yeah, he keeled over. And at the time, I think Harold Green got off. He was the host. He got up and off the couch and started doing CPR. And yeah, unfortunately, he didn't survive. But
Oh my God.
since he was doing the CPR, I ran and got the show tape, like Jeff says, and that's what went on the air that day.
Yeah, it was a classic. I mean, they still talk about it back there. Harold Green probably still talks about it. All right, I got to tell you, to start off here, I'm going to show you something that I got over the week, this past week, in the mail, in a box, a beautiful big box. I tear it open like Christmas morning because somebody sent me something, and inside was, yes, this, ladies and gentlemen,
Good Lord.
Oh, ho, ho.
from the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, a Emmy for my work on the television show at Spectrum. Now, Paul, I know you got about 60 of these, right?
No.
How many do you have?
I have nominations. I never won.
Well, I'm going to tell you the story. This is the last possible time I could have gotten one. It was the last show I worked on before I announced my retirement. It was the last time I would be eligible for an Emmy after 40 years. The last time of, and none of previously this show. I'm going to keep this right here so you guys can see it and envious of me.
Yeah.
We never won before. We got shamed every time. I was nominated for 3 national Emmys.
Yeah.
With the True Hollywood Story, and then this one came with my work at Spectrum. So
They just
you
sent
had
it. They just sent it to you with no pre-notice. You didn't get a phone
no.
call.
The ceremony took place in July,
Oh.
and at that night I got a bunch of phone calls and texts from people who were there and said, "We won, we won, we won!" I went crazy.
Yeah.
And then they got the one Emmy that's given out at the awards show, and that one goes to actually goes to Spectrum and sits in their foyer. And then the people who worked on the show, you basically order them.
Oh,
And so I ordered it, and it just arrived the other day.
I love it.
So yeah, it's great. I got to figure out a place to put it, maybe out in front of the house somewhere in a glass protected thing, so I can brag about it.
Use it for
Where
a hood
are the
ornament.
cases for it, you know?
Yeah, could melt it down and put it in my teeth.
Congratulations, a nice parting shot there. I think that's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, after all that miserable years, I got that to show for it. All right, I wanted to tell you guys about my trip. So Valerie and I went to London and Paris, France. We flew to New York, then we flew to London on Virgin Atlantic. On their first class, by the way, is called upper class, which describes me perfectly.
Of course it is. Yeah.
It was amazing. We were in like these reclining things, and they had 2 meals, and it was just fantastic. And we went to a great pub there called the Cumberland Arms, and had an English roast on Sunday, the traditional Sunday English roast, which is basically a pile of beef and all kinds of stuff on a plate. But it was good. And then I went to an English Premier League game and saw Tottenham Hotspur play West Ham, and Tottenham clobbered them 4-1. And then we went to Paris, where everybody still smokes, by the way.
Of
And
course.
I went to the Eiffel Tower, and at the top of the Eiffel Tower, you can buy a little glass of champagne and toast yourself and take a selfie with it. So Valerie and I we had a glass of champagne. When we got back to the hotel later, Valerie was looking at our Wells Fargo, and she goes, "How come? What did we buy up at the Eiffel Tower that cost $56?" It was these 2 tiny little things of champagne. No, it was 56 euros. It was probably $100.
Yeah.
Well, I love the picture you sent me from London of your gin and tonic.
Yeah.
I could barely see the gin in the glass.
I bitched at one guy there, and he went and he got his boss, and his boss came back to the table with this one of those jigger things.
Yeah.
And he says, "This is a single, Mr. Shore, and this is a double." I said, "That wouldn't you're probably pulling that off in the desert at one of these at happy hour. They'll shoot you. You gotta fill that thing up to the top, fool." Oh. And then the 3 weirdest things I saw. One of them, you're going to see a video now. When you guys won't see it, but you'll see it when you watch this back. I'm in London, and we're waiting for an elevator. There's an elevator shaft here. There's an elevator shaft to my right and to my left, and in the middle is a room. And you'll see it on the video. So literally, there's an elevator shaft on either side of this room that was crammed in there. I'd never seen that before at a hotel ever. And I told Valerie, I said, "I don't know if I'd want to be in a room that's crammed between 2 elevator shafts."
Yeah, exactly.
I saw every hotel we were in, the bathrooms are those peep show kinds now. They're just pieces of glass.
Yeah.
There's no all the old so you can't, like, if your wife's in there taking a shower and she doesn't want you in there like being a fool, or you can't go in there and take a dump or anything. You're like, you got to stay out. because it's all glass. It's like a fishbowl shower.
Yeah.
That was interesting. And the last thing I saw, and then I'm going to move on to airline stories, so Paul can tell us all about working in an airline. I was in the where we were at. We were in one of the airline, waiting to get on board a flight, and I use a men's room. I walk in the men's room, and a guy's sitting there at the urinal, turned facing the urinal, and he's brushing his teeth.
Oh no.
He's brushing his teeth while he's taking a pee. And I was like, what the fuck? He's pulling that off. And he did it. He pulled it off. Well, he cleaned himself up and walked away from it without even, like double duty.
I guess he's a million-mile flyer for sure. So
Yeah,
busy.
yeah. Hopefully you directed him to the sink where there was clean water.
Oh, I got away from him. I was like, what kind of nut is this? I probably got COVID coming out of his skin. All right, Paul. American Airlines today landed its longest ever nonstop flight, 8,300 miles, 16 hours from Dallas to Brisbane, Australia. And it was the first time that, for American Airlines, that was their longest flight. Have you ever flown or worked on a flight that was, well, you probably never worked on one that was over 6 hours.
Probably not. Yeah, but I've flown. My longest flight to be on was from Atlanta to Johannesburg. That was about, I think now it was like about 13 hours. Wow. But that was like riding up front. That was a sleeper seat. That was, all the way. But on those flights, they always have two fully stocked crews, right? You have like two pilots, two first officers, double the cabin crew. Just because they have to break after 8 hours, they can't continually go through.
Yeah, that's what they said. They basically had two crews. They had 11 crew members in there, and they had, so they could take a break. But that's long. What about you, Mike? You ever been on a super long flight?
Yeah, we flew San Francisco to Australia, and it was the same kind of thing. I think it was almost 14 hours, 13 and change.
It was 7.5 from London, from Heathrow to JFK, and that was making me crazy.
Yeah.
I just, you were sitting there, and I watched 2 movies, and, it was like, it was antsy, and I couldn't wait to get off of that flight. So going 16 hours, man, that's a lot of bad TV.
It's a long time. I'm lucky on an airplane. No, the minute I walk on and sit down, I fall asleep.
Well, you're the best kind of flyer there is then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your mouth shut, go to sleep.
Exactly.
All right, Paul. So I told the audience a little bit earlier before I brought you on that you had made the most extraordinary, incredible left turn in a career I've ever seen, as you went from being a television executive, live TV specialist, to working as a gate person for Southwest Airlines. And so you've seen it all. And there was this article that Mike sent me about Gate Lice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where people were trying to sneak in before their assigned group.
Yeah, but this is the surprising thing. It's an American thing about some new technology they have that's going to ding or something, when the person gets up to the line. At Southwest, they've been doing this for decades. I mean, Southwest is notorious for that A1 through A60 boarding, B1 through B60, and then C, basically we always say stands for center seat, right?
Yeah.
But, there's always the B or the C person who tries to slip in, and we've been turning them back, for ages. I don't think it's revolutionary. It's revolutionary to American, possibly, because maybe they just haven't denied their passengers before. But and Southwest is changing. A year from now, it's not going to, they're giving up their 50-year tradition of you board and you pick your own seat. Starting next fall, it's going to be all assigned seating like every other airline.
It'd be a free for all like every other airline. We try to get on there, find it's the people. The reason people want to get on early, in my opinion, is not for one reason solely, is to have some place to put their overhead bag, put their bags overhead, because that space runs out so quick. And
Yeah.
so that gets people crazy, and they have to get on there.
Yeah.
And there's also the main issue, which goes to the Department of Transportation, and also goes to the American Disabilities Act, which is the overruling thing that you can't just ignore. Is that if anyone comes up to any agent, right, and says, there are two questions they ask you, like, oh, do you need assistance in getting to your seat? And is there a particular seat you need? If they answer affirmative to those, they have to give them priority boarding.
Yeah.
And my sort of joke about this is because it's kind of like the old, dogs in the cabin and everything, like, oh, yeah, that's my therapy dog. Is that I've never seen someone who's only needed the ADA for, say, like a week or two, like, oh, I had hip surgery, so I would like to get down. It's like, once you know that secret, you're never going to give it up for the rest of your life. It's just going to go up to that agent and always say, hey,
You've clearly never seen me limp like a war veteran up to the front. When they call, there's a little extra people who need a little extra time. I'm dragging my leg up there.
I will tell you something that's interesting on the nationality side, and that is in Mexico, people teach their parents to always ask for the, disability seats or the early access. And you will see if you're flying on a Mexican carrier like Volaris or somebody, you will see the line of wheelchairs is like 40, 50 long.
Oh my God.
I mean, the plane holds like 140 seats, right? And 140 passengers, but and you know why they do it is because they know their parents will be taken all the way through customs, through baggage claim to the curb, and where they can't say no to them because it's against the law, and each one of these wheelchairs adds up to, I think when I was at LAX, they were paying like $56 an hour for the pushers to push. And literally, I can tell you for a fact, like Southwest Airlines, the bill at LAX alone for 1 year was over $1 million. Just pushing.
Good Lord.
That's a lot. That's a lot. I'm going to have to try that, though, next time. I'm going to go Mexican style next time I get there. Have Valerie be reluctantly pushing me around.
Yeah. Just hand Valerie your crutches.
She doesn't like it when she sees me start to limp. She knows what I'm doing. Quit limping, fool. All right, so here's an airline. I love this story. This was a Qantas flight from Sydney, Australia to Tokyo. And for some reason, they couldn't get the individual seat entertainment units to work. So they decided, well, we'll just run one movie for everybody in here. So some one of these people that works on there, one of the flight attendants, picks this movie called Daddy-O. Probably says, oh, this sounds family-oriented with Sean Penn and Dakota Johnson. Oops. Because all of a sudden people are looking around and there's in front on everybody's screen is references to oral sex and masturbation, as well as a brief but clear photo of an erect penis and photos of a woman's naked breast. And all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, hell, take that off the air. Get that off. That must have been funny.
Well, I think everyone has seen a case where on Southwest there aren't feedback monitors. It's a weight issue because Southwest is pretty conservative about just, fuel. But everyone has their own laptops, right? So you can always tell on Southwest what people are doing. And sometimes you can just tell their own politics because these people are watching Fox and these people are watching CNN, and you can right down the middle, you can tell what's going on. But sometimes I have, once in a while, sat next to someone who's watching an adult movie and gone like, Jesus, man. Keep it over there.
Yeah.
Man.
That is disgusting. That's why I like that Virgin Atlantic. I was in my little bed and nobody could bug me, and I didn't have to deal with it.
Good move.
There was a thing on AOL the other day about a woman. You might have seen this, Paul. She posted a picture in flight of a guy eating a can of tuna fish with a fork, sitting next to her, and he was putting out crackers and eating it right out of the can.
Yeah.
But oh my God.
That smell would kill you too.
No, horrible.
That's horrible. All right. I ended up watching Battle for the Planet of the Apes, pretty good. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which was okay.
It was okay.
It was okay. Deadpool 2, which was great. And then I passed on Kevin Costner's Horizon American Saga Part 1 again because that old stupid movie, it pops up everywhere in my life. I can't get rid of that thing.
Now we've got a tracker on you. We're making it follow you.
I had a situation like that Paul's describing. I turned on this movie called Drive Away Dolls, and it stars a lesbian couple who get involved in murder and all kind of crazy stuff, and they had to also make love once rather radically on screen, and I had to turn it off because I figured people were looking at me funny, and like the old man there watching this movie. Mike, you sent me information that Paul backed up earlier that the New Zealand airport introduces a time limit on hugs.
Yeah. So I'm not flying with you anymore.
No, I know I can't bring you to the airport and hug you for a half hour like we were used to doing before you get on a flight.
No, I love that. It reminds me of the passenger drop-off lane at the airport in Nice. And when we fly into Nice on our way to Saint-Tropez, there's a dedicated line for traffic at the airport that says "Kiss and Fly."
Yeah.
The big sign right over the roadway, "Kiss and Fly."
Kiss my ass and fly. That's
So
ridiculous.
this week the thing is that London Heathrow was mocking the New Zealanders who were doing 3-minute limit on the hugs, and they're going like, "We have no limit. You can hug as much as you want." But what they don't tell you is the kiss and fly lane that they have. Actually, they charge £5 to use it. To drive in that lane, you have to pay £5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can take as long as you want. It's going to cost you.
Yeah. How much do you like her?
I had to pay £1 to take a piss at the train station in Paris. By the way, that sucked.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't have any pounds on you, don't have any euros on you. All right, we're going to switch from the airline stories. Though Paul, did you ever see anybody trying to do that Mile High thing in the bathrooms when you were working?
No, I mean, the thing that happens more often than not is people still try to get away with smoking and, like.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. And, well, they always say that, feds are going to come and take you away and it's going to be the end of the world. I'm not kidding you. Like, people do this, they get on the ground, they walk out, and then you get your hands slapped and like, don't you do that again? And they're on their way. But that's the only thing I've ever seen anything else happen. I mean, I've seen two people approach the bathroom, and you kind of go like, nah.
Don't be a knocking if the bathroom door is rocking.
Right.
All right, I know that. All right. So, at any rate, Mike, goes back to that. You sent me a great article about a man who developed a scalp tumor after decades of breakdancing. And, what I found funny about that is that was. We were goofing on that woman Ray Gun from the Olympics, who was the worst dancer I've ever seen in my life. I wonder if she's got any of these brain tumors from spinning on her head.
Horrible.
She did, stupid.
Yeah. You couldn't tell if she was having a seizure or trying to break dance.
Well, I think whatever it was, she got the only zeros in the history of the Olympics. So
Yeah.
And yet, she won an award in Australia this week.
Yeah. She won an award in Australia for breakdance, for what she does, and they fixed her up and they did a makeover on her, and she did a magazine cover. It didn't look anything like her, like that. She had that baseball hat on and stuff in the Olympics. It was goofy, but
Good for
they
her.
fixed her up. All right, Valerie sent me this. She said a hospital in Kentucky. Now we've done a lot of stories about this where you got to be careful with doctors when you're old, especially. I mean, when they make sure that they know you're alive when you go into the hospital, what you want to have done on you when you're in the hospital, and that you're good to go when you're good to go. So at a hospital in Kentucky, witnesses say a man who had been declared dead after a drug overdose was movingly and visibly crying as he was being prepped for surgery to donate his vital organs.
Hopefully someone in the room noticed.
They did. And they have a picture of him that I'm going to be showing here. He's alive 3 years later. This happened 3 years ago, but they were about ready to take his whatever out, his kidneys or whatever, his heart out, and he's crying on the operating table. Like, oh, maybe he's alive.
Oh, jeez.
And then there was this classic from New Jersey, of course. Family shows up to a funeral home in Camden, New Jersey, for a private showing of the body of this person named Addison Jenkins. So they open up the casket for this family, and it's just before the regular visiting hour, so the family only is in there. So they open up the casket, they look in there, and it's Addison's clothes, but it's not Addison. So this family starts, going, what the hell? Who's this? Why are they wearing Addison's clothes? And the classic part of the story is the funeral director says, no, that's him. That's him. No, that's Addison. They go, no, it's not. We got to know who Addison is. And the classic thing is the Addison family, the Jenkins family said, we should know who he is because our Addison had a, quote, cauliflower ear and a noticeable foot infection.
Oh, good. One of which might have led to his death.
Oh man, I would have closed the thing on Addison if he had a noticeable foot infection. Let him go anyways. Oh my God. But they finally admitted that it wasn't the right body, and they went and dug up the right person and put him in there. Jeez. Now, if that doesn't make you pissed off, this one will. Especially you, Paul, because you have dogs. Croc is making a shoe for dogs.
Yes.
I know, because the reason he's saying yes, Paul, is because Mike is the only man I know over the age of 15 who has a pair of Crocs that he wears when he washes his car.
I love my Crocs.
Oh,
I keep trying to talk Jeff into stepping up his sartorial repertoire.
That's all I need. Welcome to the gun show.
He owns two black T-shirts, a pair of khaki shorts, and that haircut. And that's all.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like a crime scene most of the time.
When I was at KABC in 1980s, by the way, I wore for a couple of years the same thing every day to the office. Every day for a couple of years. I called it the uniform, khaki pants, white button-down shirt with a button-down collar, and a pair of Doc Martens. And I wore it, and I have a picture of myself to prove it. If I find it, I'll put it in the B-roll of this thing. But I did wear it.
Did you do that on purpose, or is that just the corporate
Because
culture?
it's simple. It's like black T-shirts. They're simple. I don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
Nothing that I do remember you wearing the white collars. Yeah.
Every day. That was cool. But anyways, they're making Crocs for dogs, and Mike wears them, like I said, when he washes the car to get ready to go to Nice, France, and get in line, the KISS line. Nice. I did. You had to throw in that Nice that you traveled like that. They sell a matching set for humans, too, of your Crocs. So if you want to match your dog, you can coordinate your outfit. So there you go, Mike. I'll have to get you a dog first, though. But
Just bring Truman over while I wash the car, and I'll put him in some Crocs.
oh my God, Truman! I won't even talk about Truman. Truman escaped today, like a great escape, like in the movies. He got out, and well, it's funny now, but Valerie was ready to club me because I left the side gate open, and
She should have. Yeah.
and he got loose, and then she was screaming at me for the next 2 hours until we got him back.
You found him though?
She did. Valerie found him. I was driving around in the Prius looking all over for the dog, and I came down the street, and there was Valerie walking back with him, pulling him by his collar. She was not happy.
Oh,
and he bolted. All right. This is a woman falling down and losing her phone story, which we've done 2 or 3 times on this podcast. The classic was the woman in, I don't know where it was, West Virginia, probably. Usual.
The toilet.
Yeah, she goes into a porta potty at a state park, and with her phone, it drops between her legs into the poop, and she goes in head first after it. She gets stuck down there, and then they had her over the news. But this woman, same thing. She found herself between a rock and a hard place, caught between 2 boulders and a crevice, where she dropped her phone and tried to go in face first after it, and gets stuck upside down for how many hours? Hanging by her feet for over an hour. Oh, it took 7 hours to rescue her.
7 hours, yeah.
really wedged in there. Yeah.
Yeah, she was in there. There's a picture of it you'll see here. I haven't. All you can see is her bare feet. And later on, when reporters talk to her, she goes, "Oh, I didn't like the fact that people were staring at my bare feet."
Oh,
All right.
Boy.
Yeah, that's ugly. But yeah, you got to watch your phone. I nearly dropped mine in the toilet the other day. It bumbled out of my hand, and by some fate of God, thank God, it just bounced off the edge of the toilet and onto the floor rather than into the toilet, which would have ruined it and also got me yelled at for 10 hours because I would have had to get another one. All right, this is where we say via con Dios to people who have passed away. The one and only Mitzi Gaynor, who was probably about 120 years old, she passed away. She was a movie star back in the 30s. Fernando Valenzuela.
I knew her well. I knew her well.
You probably knew or dated her, right? Went to high school with her,
Yeah.
Mitzi.
Yeah, I knew she'd be a big star.
She was in the original, I think, Star is Born. There's been about 12 versions of A Star is Born, the latest with Lady Gaga and, what's his name, Bradley Cooper. But they go back years and years and years, and I think she was in the original one, back after, in the first early days of talkies. I mean, that's how old she is. Fernando Valenzuela, who was the Dodger pitcher who everybody loved.
Fernando Mania. Remember that?
I don't remember. We were living in L.A.
You remember the all-time classic Fernando Valenzuela story from KBCF?
Uh-huh.
So the 11 o'clock news at Channel 7 in Los Angeles was going on the air, and there used to be this guy named Dr. George Fishbeck, who was the weather god of Southern California. And one night, this guy shows up at the gate dressed with a Dodger jersey, number 34, and he waves at the guard, and the guard just lets him right on walk through, right? He walks right, it's not Fernando. He walks right into the news set. He comes around the weather wall, and Dr. George goes, Fernando! And it wasn't him. Everyone else is pointing like...
Oh, my God. Everything. You know, we could just do a podcast about local television in those days. I told Mike one time about Jerry, what's his name, Dunphy.
Yeah.
How he would go out and he'd do a great 5 o'clock, but by the time he was back after drinking all night at dinner, he would do the 9 o'clock news or whatever, the 10 o'clock. He was like, could barely read the teleprompter.
Or the greatest thing I've ever heard of, still to this day, 40 years later, is he was marked as a gang hit and was shot at 8 and drove up on the woman's porch outside the studio that night.
Really?
This guy drove around in a baby blue Rolls Royce. And, you know, when you think of the world today, how you don't want to really be stand out or anything, and his license plate said 7JD7. So you knew it was him.
Oh, God.
And these kids, because it was a gang initiation, even back in the 80s, it was a gang initiation. They shot him.
Oh, my God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
he
right.
survived, but he was a tough old bird, that guy.
If you didn't know who he is, the people who don't, Jerry Dunphy was a local Los Angeles television anchor guy. He had white hair piled on top of his head and went away, swooped back, and he had this line, from the desert to the sea to all of Southern California, a good evening. He said every night. And he was the model for Ted Baxter on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, because he was the same kind of inane, weird dude.
Yeah.
Or what was I going to tell you about next here? Oh, so I don't know if you saw it, but the Miami Heat decided to honor Dwayne Wade with a statue. And if you've seen the statues that are down at where the Lakers play, there's Kobe, I think there's Kareem, and there's Chick
Wait.
Hearn. Huh?
Gretzky down there, too.
And Gretzky, right.
Gretzky, yeah.
And, you know, and all those statues generally look sort of enough like the person they're honoring. And there's a statue down at where the Galaxy play of David Beckham and Landon Donovan, and they sort of look like those two. But there is but the Miami Heat, I don't know who the sculptor, I don't even know who he was sculpting. It doesn't look like Dwayne Wade. It looks like Dwayne Wade if he's having some large article shoved up his ass right at that moment that they're his mouth is wide open in a grimace, and he looks more like a killer than he does. And plus, they don't have his hands like any basketball position. His hands are like clutched over, and it's the most ridiculous thing.
It's
And
horrible.
if you're a Dwayne Wade fan, you're pretty pissed off right now because your hero looks like a complete like a monster in front of the stadium. Oh, okay. But you have to see it to believe it. I was seeing another one. Where did I see another statue that looked nothing like the guy that they were doing? It's like it's embarrassing. But I think that the key to it though is to put them in a position that they're doing something that distracts you from the face a little bit, like Kobe slamming, or they have Chicky Hearn down there too. By the way, Chick Hearn sitting there behind a
A desk,
he,
yeah.
yeah, he's up behind a desk. He was an announcer. He used to say, he'd say, this game is in the refrigerator. The door's closed, the lights are out, the eggs are cool, and the butter's getting hard, and the jello's jiggling. If the Lakers got ahead, and then if you were the opponent, right then you knew you're screwed.
Just go
home.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're done. We're going home.
Don Meredith, turn out the lights, the party's over.
Oh yeah, he
Yeah.
used to sing it too. I could sing a rendition of that
No,
for you,
don't.
make me want.
No, please. No,
All right,
Paul.
sing.
Paul, you know well enough. Discourage Jeff ever from singing in public.
I won't sing tonight. I'm not a full voice ready to do it. Now, as a part of our show, Paul, that we're honored to have you here to help us talk about this. Not that you're from this great state of Florida, but you're near enough to it. You're close enough to Florida. You have a few of these nutcases living near you, probably. My son Jake, by the way, just spent a couple years down in his end of South Carolina and had enough stories about, alligators and these
Yeah.
flying cockroaches they got down there. What do they call palmetto bugs?
Meadow bugs.
They are just unbelievable, scary looking things, and snakes. They got everything down there in that part of the country.
Yeah.
You live on the ocean, though. You don't live in where Jake was living, which is white trash town.
Yeah, but I got bats around here. I got bats that fly outside. If I forget to close the damn door out here or pull the screen and the lights are on inside, I had one. Fortunately, I caught it within minutes of it getting in the house and got it out. But I was like, oh my god!
How'd you catch it?
How'd you catch a bat?
It landed on the fireplace mantle. I put like a Tupperware thing over the little piece of paper under, the Tupperware, and I carried it inside and let it go.
It just let you sit there and it just sat there. What, you put a Tupperware on its head?
It finally settled down after I turned all the lights out in the room, and then I was basically mulling about with Louise, sort of guiding the shark like.
The wonders of home ownership. Well, anyways, we always talk about these guys down in Florida because they're insane, and they're just Florida people are just the greatest. The men are nuts, and the women are almost as nuts.
Yeah.
And here's some of the headlines. I'm not going to do the whole stories this time because we get too crazy talking about the whole stories. But here's some of the headlines: Florida man shot and killed his dog because he had no power after Hurricane Milton. So basically, he was furious he had no power after the hurricane hit his house. And so he got pissed off and he started firing his gun around recklessly inside the house, and he kills his own dog. A fool.
Jesus.
These are the kind of people that should not be armed anyways. And clearly they left the part about how much liquor the man had out of this story before he started firing the gun all around the house. But he was pissed off.
Yeah, I'd love to know the train of thought that leads someone to think, I'm going to fix this problem by firing a gun into my ceiling after the hurricane.
Yeah, he hit the ceiling. Looked like he hit the floor. Poor dog. Like that, what's her name? Christy Noam killing the poor old, what was the name of that dog, Mike?
Was it Trixie or something
Oh,
like that?
Trixie. But anyway, she killed her own dog, but she was pissed off at it. Cricket.
Cricket. Yeah.
Cricket was the dog. Yeah. All right. Florida man in underwear, wearing underwear, accused of burglarizing, damaging mini golf course. Another story is they leave out how smashed you have to be to get how smashed do you have to be to get to go to a mini golf course in your underwear and try to rob it?
I just, no, I mean, you guys are in show business long enough. You could create fabulous stories.
Well, Paul's seen me drunk in my underwear, so we're not going to go there, though. All right. In Riverside, Florida, a substitute teacher is arrested for masturbating in the classroom during the lunch break.
No,
He doesn't go to a private room. He doesn't go to the bathroom. He just waits till the kids are out of the room and then he starts masturbating. Nice job. I wonder if that'll get him a job next year. What kind of rating he gets. All right, and this one, Florida man. This one is not really funny, right? But because it's just cruel. Florida man was accused of throwing his chihuahua off a hotel balcony like a football, deputies said. And again, he's got to be hammered, whatever. He goes out there and throws the poor chihuahua over the balcony, causing the animal to break several bones. Thank God they got this guy and threw him away.
I have got a flashback from that story to 2011, and one of the things we all did when we were in television, like, was like shoot a presentation or shoot something you wanted to pitch to be a good idea, and that was this, and it was called Another Day in Paradise. It was in a hellhole section of Oakland, California, and it was about Section 8 housing in like a Beverly Hills 1.0 kind of, with the pool in the center, and all the complexes were around the pool and everything. We were there with a Dateline news crew, so they knew how to shoot these things. And there was a former playmate who was the manager of the building, right? It was kind of like, this is good, and then all the bad. And it ended so dramatically. At 4:30, when we were just leaving, this guy came out of the room at one end and chucked this dog off the second balcony. And it was like, holy. I got to the Oakland airport and had 3 shots of something.
That's a good one. Oh, boy. People have got to be crazy throwing dogs around like that.
yeah.
That's nuts. All right. I couldn't throw Truman as 5 inches if I wanted. The dog weighs 90 pounds, by the way.
Yeah, you'd have to pick him up to be able to.
He'd probably
throw
pick me
him.
up and throw me around. Throw me off a balcony. All right, finally. Florida woman was allegedly caught with drugs, holding a bag that said, bag of drugs. There's a brainiac for you. She's carrying around a bag and it says bag of drugs on it. So the cops just looked at her and shake their head and arrest her.
Yeah, come over here.
Just come over here and just sit down and I'm going to arrest you. All right, everybody, that's the show for this week. Thank you very much. Old people this week, especially that is a direct reference to the man in the middle there, Mike, who's 160 years old. Doesn't look it, of course, but
That's right.
with his cheap haircut, free haircut.
Look at that haircut.
Looks
Look
good,
at
Mike.
those. Look at those chins. My built-in survival
All those
kit.
tins. Survival kit. All right. Please subscribe. If you subscribe, Mike will come over to your house and give you a Swedish massage, free of charge. Send us an email, please, because we love your comments. I'd love to hear what you think about Paul being here. Let us know. Please send your emails to oldpeoplethisweek@gmail.com. If you don't like looking at our beautiful faces, especially Mike's, you can check us out on Spotify and Apple. But if you like looking at us, come to here to YouTube. And check out our tasks at 52tasks.substack.com. We give you a task every week. This week's gonna make reference to our upcoming election. Make sure you vote, everybody. That's we're not going to tell you who to vote for. We don't care if you're for Trump or Harris or who you want to be in office. Just make sure you vote. And thank you, Paul, for coming by tonight. It's a pleasure, an honor.
Thanks, Paul.
And we're going to have you on again because clearly you have opinion on things, which is what we like. So everybody, that's it. Adios. See you soon.
Adios.